All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking about real music in real time for a couple of real people out there, just like you and just like me. So, Lindsey Buckingham is speaking out again about his dismissal from Fleetwood Mac, as a few Fleetwood Mac fans, including myself, kind of still looking for a little closure. And there is a way to get to closure, and I will talk about that. And before I do, here is Vital Lines. If you like Survivor or Toto or Foreigner or anything that kind of sounds somewhat like those artists, okay? Vital Lines. This is Robbie LeBlanc on vocals. Superb, amazing singer. Kind of in the mold of Lou Gramm and Jimmy Jamison. So again, the great Tommy Denander playing guitar on this. Very brilliant guitarist and does a lot in the current melodic rock scene, which is driven by like a handful of people on the internet. And those of you who are maybe a little tired of your Foreigner 4 album, you might want to listen to something other than that. And Wheels Within Wheels by the band Vital Lines. All right. Okay. So the Fleetwood Mac story continues. The saga continues. Lindsey Buckingham remains disappointed in the way he was dismissed from Fleetwood Mac, but continues holding out hope that he and the group may tour together one last time. That's very interesting. So it would have to be Lindsey and Stevie together. That is how this has to end if it's going to end. Some people will say, well, there's no Christine McVie, so there can be no Fleetwood Mac reunion. Keep in mind, Fleetwood Mac was together for a very long time without Christine McVie. They weren't as good, but my guess is you might be able to bring someone in to help with the Christine McVie songs, or you could have Lindsey and Stevie just duetting and getting through those songs. You'd have to hire some additional musicians. I think they do anyway, even with the Neil Finn and Mike Campbell version of the band. There were other players that were situated either slightly out of the picture from the stage or maybe even directly on the stage, but out of the main view. These older bands do this stuff all the time. And even some of the bands that aren't as old as Fleetwood Mac and Journey and whoever, they do this kind of stuff to beef up their sound, to give their sound more texture. So again, the audience goes away happy, right? And that is really the motivation. So during a recent interview with Conan O'Brien, of all people, Buckingham detailed the way things played out with his former band. Still talking about this, he says, without pointing any fingers, Lindsey, you're pointing a finger. It was certain that it was singular in how it was driven. The guitarist noted, seemingly alluding to Stevie Nicks, but without pointing any fingers. Others in the band were not happy with what was going on at that point. Now, he has continued to say this over the years, and I think based on what Christine McVie said at one point, that he is telling the truth. And Mick Fleetwood has been a little more neutral, but has come around somewhat on his views. He had basically blacklisted Lindsey Buckingham and then later on said something like, yeah, he was really important to this band. No, seriously, he was really important to the band. He was very important to the band. But again, in business, and I've talked about this in other videos, during this whole saga, I was saying they went with name ID. And they went with the lead singer who had a very successful solo career, who is out there all the time on social media talking about things like Ukraine and Vladimir Putin, and whatever else inspires her to kind of put herself into the topic du jour, you know? And she's been talking a lot about women's issues. And there's a certain faction. And by the way, Lindsey Buckingham, I believe, has the same worldview as Stevie Nicks on many of these issues. This is just a more personal thing where, again, this romance that went bad so many years ago is still the reason why these two attract so much attention. But it's also the reason there's all of this on-stage chemistry. And the chemistry is explosive. And people would like to see that one more time. They would like to see these two human beings, not just musicians, but these two human beings outside of the music world kind of get on stage together and sort of make amends. It's like a fairy tale for people. And they grew up listening to this music, and they grew up with the tension and the craziness. And so is it more important than world peace or anything? No, it's not. But for Fleetwood Mac fans who were really ticked off that Lindsey was kicked to the curb during the whole Neil Finn, Mike Campbell, yeah, we have to replace Lindsey with two guys again, like they did back in the late 80s and early 90s. They did that because Lindsey is a one-man show, but yet he covers a lot of ground. He just does. He's got some very interesting and very difficult guitar playing that he does, which is unique, and it's just you don't replace that. You cope with him not being there. But that sound, the band established this sound on the back of Lindsey Buckingham's very unique guitar playing and production, because this guy had Brian Wilson tendencies. Even Brian Wilson at one point said, yeah, Lindsey Buckingham is a genius. All right. And without him in the band, that has left a bit of a gap. Now, again, Stevie Nicks has extended her 2024 tour. That's a statement, because a couple of years ago, she was saying, I don't want to tour. Of course, she was too afraid of the floating particle from Wuhan or wherever it came from that destroyed everything. And then the fear porn, which is still out there, by the way. It's just, it's kind of more undercover. People whisper it now. They don't say it out loud, but it's still out there. And these musicians, every time they take the stage, they take a chance because somebody in the audience hasn't followed the protocol, even though nothing that anyone has done on this issue has made any difference whatsoever. But you still hear these news headlines. It's just perplexing that people haven't moved on, but they just haven't moved on. Anyway, I believe Lindsey and Stevie most likely share the same worldview on that topic. But anyway, without pointing any fingers, he points fingers. There's no fingers to point at anyone, really. That's rock and roll, right? That's what he says, even though he just basically threw Stevie Nicks under the bus. I think everyone would have liked to see me remain, okay, except for one person, but did what they felt they had to do in that moment. I was in the band for almost 45 years, and we were always, well, this is always part of our legacy, we were always able to work out our differences over things of which were far more profound than any issues that happened in 2018 with me departing the band. The band collectively allowed both Neil Finn and Mike Campbell to join the band, maybe out of weakness to some degree. It disrespected the legacy we built because we'd been through 45 years of some really difficult moments, some very difficult years, and we'd come back around. Like I say, that's our legacy, and to some degree, to go out and do something more generic was not honoring our legacy. So could Fleetwood Mac reunite? Well, Christine is gone, and a lot of Fleetwood Mac fans wouldn't like the band to go out without her again. But like I've said, Christine had taken a very long break from Fleetwood Mac. People forget. But this is what Lindsey Buckingham says about a Fleetwood Mac reunion. He says, in a heartbeat, absolutely. This is what he told Conan O'Brien. He would accept the invitation to rejoin the band. If there's more to come from Fleetwood Mac, if there's a way to heal that, that would be great. It would be very appropriate to close on a more circular note. This, according to Lindsey Buckingham. So he'd be willing to go out there without Christine. Now, my guess is that Stevie Nicks would use Christine McVie's death to say, no, we can't go out without Christine. My guess is Mick Fleetwood and to a lesser degree, John McVie would probably agree to go back out there. I know John had said at one point he didn't want to tour anymore and he wanted to spend time on his boat. But guess what? This would be a very large paycheck for everybody involved. This would be a payday probably bigger than what the Eagles are doing right now, or at least fairly close to it. And to have Stevie and Lindsey back on stage together, those tickets would sell like really hot hotcakes. They would just fly out and things would get sold out very quickly. And you could put another band on the docket to help sell the tickets, but I don't think you'd have to. I think it would be the return of Lindsey and Stevie. That's all you have to do is put Lindsey and Stevie together again with Fleetwood Mac. And, you know, Ticketmaster, they would be doing their accelerated pricing on tickets where, you know, if you get in the first 5 minutes, you might get a ticket at face value. If you wait too long, that ticket will probably be like $5,000. So yes, I do think this is still a possibility. It's probably not going to happen in 2024. And I'm thinking there are conversations and negotiations going on behind the scenes. Lindsey doing an interview with Conan O'Brien on Sirius XM. That's going to generate a lot of chatter in the Fleetwood Mac chat rooms. And so we'll see what happens in a few months. It's probably not going to be this year. It would probably be in 2025. I wish these people would get their act together because nobody's getting any younger. And it's going to be more difficult to get these songs out there in a respectable way for people. Although in the case of Fleetwood Mac, I've got to say that the music would be secondary. The quality of the music would be secondary to the fact that there would be this tension, this incredible tension on stage, and people would be laser focused. Okay, what's Lindsey doing? What's Stevie doing? We don't care how this sounds. It could sound like crap. It's not going to matter. People are going to want to see those two on stage again. So that's really the bottom line. And you'll get closure and you'll bring it full circle, as Lindsey Buckingham says here. All right, before I go and bring this video to a conclusion, Vital Lines and their album Wheels Within Wheels. Doesn't sound like Fleetwood Mac, all right? Survivor, Toto, Foreigner, stuff like that. Robbie LeBlanc, brilliant singer, should be. In fact, Robbie LeBlanc could probably be fronting Foreigner or Survivor right now. If they really wanted to reboot the brand, in the case of Foreigner, they've got Kelly, but say Survivor, they wanted to go out on tour again, which, yeah, that's another video, but Robbie LeBlanc could be the guy to do it. Toby Hitchcock would be another candidate for that. Mark Shearer, I'll mention him. He's a great singer as well. So there are a number of singers who could handle the job and deliver the goods, like me, delivering the goods on every video. Thanks for watching, everybody. God bless everyone. Please subscribe. Don't forget about Patreon, YouTube memberships, and just hanging in there with me. I need your support, both financially and morally, to keep me going. Your moral support, just your being here and saying positive things over on Patreon, that goes a long way. God bless. And of course, I will see you soon.